Makulu Linux, a slick-looking Linux-based system with up to 16 different desktop layouts. Lots of tweaks here, lots of eye candy, but is most of the software usable, especially for a Windows user trying something new, such as Makulu Linux? Well, I still use Windows, not as much, but I still do. Let's take a look and see what a Windows user might use. Let's go to Accessories. Well, extensions, I'm glad that's installed to tweak your GNOME shell here. This should be mandatory in all, Ubuntu or GNOME or systems with the GNOME shell to make it easier for beginners to tweak the system. So I'm glad that is installed by default. Of course, the file manager, you'll be using this a lot. That's a given there. Let's see, extensions, files, variety wallpaper changer. I have a confession to make. I don't use this, but I think I would like it a lot if I did. This is where it automatically changes your wallpaper. You can set it to change like every hour, every day. So this I think I would like to install. Weather, it's nice to have the default, weather app working on your system so you know how to start your next morning, how it's going to be, either warm or cold. As you can see here, I have the weather or the time and date here as this is called Conky on the desktop, user information, some important headlines about the Makulu Linux, and some interesting quotes. Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Oh, that's too deep for me. Okay, let's move along here. Graphics, no Macs. What is that? Pictures to look at and edit your pictures. Okay, that's probably all you would need if you are coming from a Windows environment. Internet, I'm glad Google Chrome is installed by default. For some reason in Linux only, Chrome is the one that gives me the least amount of issues. Much better than Firefox, in my opinion, when it comes to Linux. Not sure why, but that's my experience. Discord I was using quite a bit during the pandemic lockdowns. Not as much now, but it's nice. It's free. You can voice chat and video chat with your friends. And I guess this is popular with gamers. So yeah, definitely Discord and Google Chrome is nice to have installed by default. Under Office, not much. I wouldn't use contacts personally. Calendar I would use, somewhat frequently. All right, sound and video. Droid Cam, using your phone as a webcam. I'm not sure that's quite as popular today, considering webcams are fairly inexpensive even for high def. So it might be an option, but I'm not sure how usable that would be or how popular. MPV media player, I don't see having that when VLC media player is installed by default. The default player standard, in my opinion, for Linux and Windows. Pulse audio, volume control. Yep, that's nice. I had to install Simple Screen Recorder to record this. Of course, if you are not a content creator like myself, you really don't need that. So, yeah, VLC is the star here. All right, system tools. There's lots here. BleachBit I use quite a bit to clean up the system. Desktop Manager, of course, from Makulu, it is required. Disks I use sometimes. The GDebi package installer, great package installer for Ubuntu-based systems. HTOP I use sometimes. Scrolling down, screensaver I use, of course, settings. Software, add or remove software. This would come in very, very handy for a newbie. Personally, myself, I prefer the Synaptic Package Manager once you become more experienced with Linux. And the GNOME Tweak Tool. This should be a standard install for all GNOME-based systems. I'm not sure why it's not. All right, moving along. All right, Universal Access, don't use that. Utilities, yeah, the screenshot tool is nice. I use the System Monitor sometimes to keep track of my system here. What else? Terminal I use quite a bit. Well, I won't say quite a bit. I use it a lot since I'm not a newbie anymore. I have no fear of the terminal. Again, but you don't have to use this. Of course, the Desktop Manager to tweak your system. Lots of tools here to tweak if you like lots of eye candy. And finally, the settings here at the bottom, for GNOME. Pretty standard stuff here, pretty easy to use. So overall, a very nice usable system for Makulu Linux, brand new. This is the Shift Pro Edition. I like it. It looks great, and I think there's enough default software installed here for a new user, a Windows user, all 1.3 billion Windows users out there. If you wanted to try something cool looking for Linux and have no fear of it, this is easy to install, easy to use. I think there's enough default software here to get you started. Take a look at Bakulu Linux as an example. Okay, of course, there's lots of choices. There's Linux Mint, Zorn, and the list goes on for newbies. But since this is brand new, I took a look at this for this evening. That's my brief look at usable software in a Linux-based system. So what's your favorite pieces of software? Let me know in the comments below. That's it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one. Arrivederci.